Despite the constant complaining we hear in basically every subreddit, YouTube video, and Discord server, mine excluded of course, real-time strategy is actually doing pretty darn well in the big 2025. In fact, I think it might be doing as well as it has maybe ever, or at least since the 2010s. We've had sequels to pre-existing franchises, brand new IPs, spiritual successors, indie darlings, and the rise of semi-well-funded AA studios. There really has been a lot, but a side effect of that is that it's been pretty hard to keep track of everything. And I say that as someone who does this for a job. For the more casual audience, or for those of you who are more in and out of games, it's probably basically impossible to keep it all in line. So that's what I want to achieve with this video. To recap where RTS has been over the past wee while, and look on over to the horizon to see what's coming in the future. We'll look at a few specific games throughout that showcase their industry niches particularly well, and of course I'll give you some recommendations for games both old and new that you might want to check out. I'm going to try to organise this by rough studio size, but don't look too hard into it. So sit back and relax. Let's get into the state of real-time strategy in 2025. Petroglyph Games have been sitting mostly dormant over the past few years, which makes me hopeful that they're cooking on something exciting. After releasing the CNC Remastered Collection back in 2020, which included extremely faithful remasters of Command & Conquer Tiberian Dawn and Red Alert, they had a bit of a swing and a miss, in my opinion, with the Great War Western Front. It definitely had some fans, but I wasn't one of them. What I was a fan of, however, was 9-Bit Armies, a sequel to their own 8-Bit Armies released back in 2016. Meant as a bit of a spiritual successor to Command & Conquer in a very lo-fi style, 9-Bit launched into early access a couple of years ago and released in full about a year later. Playing it now after only experiencing its early access release has been a ton of fun. I honestly think 8-Bit and now 9-Bit kind of flew under the radar in terms of getting that classic RTS feel in a modern release. The art style is a lot of fun and there's a lot of content to be enjoyed, even more now with the recent release of Going Rogue, a free DLC that adds a brand new way to play. As the name suggests, it's a roguelike mode, similar to Rogue Command, which I covered about a year ago. It boots up as its own game and you basically jump straight into it as you get given a handful of units and are tasked with completing objectives on the map. Once you complete a mission, you'll get the chance to buy and sell units, apply upgrades, and equip powerful one-off abilities for your next scenario. Similar to something like FTL, you'll go down a mission tree until you reach a final boss battle to win the run. There will be mini bosses as you go, and shops to spend your money on exciting rare units and items. If you've been around for a while, you might even notice some units from the older 8-bit games making an appearance too, which is fun. A unique thing that I quite like about Going Rogue is that there's unit permanence between missions. Whereas in Rogue Command you always started with what was essentially a fresh base, here you make a selection before you deploy, which can be a mix of both units and buildings. And if you lose any of them in a mission, they are gone for good. Even health bars are permanent, with repairs between missions costing your hard-earned cash. All in all, it's a really cool mode, and kind of amazing that it's completely free if you already own 9-bit armies. Petroglyph told me it's the result of a few devs essentially just playing around and experimenting with different gameplay styles, eventually deciding to turn it into something people outside the company offices could enjoy. If you haven't played 9-bit armies since its early access release, or ever, I'd recommend you do so. There are lots of ways to play, including expansive campaigns, skirmish, the roguelike mode, challenge missions, and more. Relic have had a pretty big few years. After the lackluster launch of Company of Heroes 3, they have since left the umbrella of Sega and gone out on their own. They've continued to build on COH 3 with expansions and updates, and public sentiment has been taking an upwards trajectory, correlating with the game's improvement. They also had another big release recently in Dawn of War Definitive Edition. While I thought it was a pretty safe remaster, it was high quality, it ran well, and it came in at a fair price. I think anyway. So it's hard to be upset about it. You can watch my review for further info if you're interested. And as for what's next for Relic, man, your guess is as good as mine. They do have a little side project coming out soon in Earth vs Mars, a turn-based strategy game that, as I discovered from you guys, takes heavy Advance Wars inspiration, a game that before making that video I had not heard of nor played. It's got a free demo that you can try right now if you want to give it a shot, and it's releasing in full at the end of this month. Now kids, this is a PC, and on it is Age of Empires. As you may know, World's Edge have been shepherding Age of Empires for the past wee while, and it's fair to say they've done a pretty darn good job. And after a lot of success this decade with Age of Empires and Age of Mythology, they're really showing no signs of slowing down. Age 2 Definitive continues to get new expansions seemingly every 6 to 12 months, and while that game is obviously the fan favourite, the others aren't being left behind either. Age of Mythology Retold had a great launch and has its second expansion just around the corner, and Age of Empires 4 is getting its third, in Dynasties of the East, dropping in November. Unfortunately for Age of Empires 3 fans, Age 3 Definitive hasn't had an expansion for a while now, and I wouldn't expect a new one anytime soon or probably ever. But hey, it does have a really good free-to-play option with rotating civilizations that anyone can jump in and enjoy, and it's got a consistent, if not as big of a player base as Age of Empires 2. So that's something. Now, while Age of Empires here has been doing pretty well for itself, one classic franchise that hasn't been doing so hot is Command & Conquer. The series is, well, there's no sugarcoating it. It's basically dead and gone at this point. At least it is for any real entries that you and I might care about. I think by now we would have heard if there was a new remaster coming. I'd happy to be proven wrong, but I've just kind of got a feeling that we're not going to get that Tiberian Sun or Relic 2 remaster that we're all hoping for. The only real life Command & Conquer has shown in the past wee while is obviously the remastered collection from about 5 years ago, which was very good, and then there was the very not good mobile game from about a year or two ago. Let's not mention it, it's awful. So yeah, I guess EA is kind of happy to just sit on Command & Conquer, do nothing with it, let the IP wither and die. Yeah, great stewards, guys. Oh, yo, guys, I don't know if you saw this. This is actually my pet snake. I probably won't tell you his name just for confidentiality reasons. Oh, I guess I could. Let's call him Andrew W. Oh, no, that's too easy. A. Wilson. Yeah. Now, I want to preface the indie section by saying that this is not an exhaustive list of every indie RTS game out there, because there are a lot of them. I've included the ones that I think are interesting, so if there's something I didn't talk about that you think is worthy, do leave it in the comments. First up, we got Systemic War. This is a very interesting looking new RTS that I only heard of recently, and it has a demo releasing very soon in the next Steam Next Fest, which is around a week away. The developers were nice enough to send me a key to try it in an early build, and after doing so, I'm very intrigued, as it's giving similar vibes to games like Broken Arrow, and if you squint a bit, something like World in Conflict. It's basically one of those grand strategy / real-time strategy hybrid games, similar to other releases like Wargame and Warno. Now you may be thinking, why not just play Broken Arrow, or any other similar game? To which I would say, yep, that is a possible choice, but I haven't, and in regards to Broken Arrow, I don't own it. And something about Systemic War just intrigues me. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a lot of little things that just kind of pique my interest. Like the aura-filled opening cutscene, which I'm pretty sure is real footage with a real guy talking, and how the Polish studio behind it seems unknown, but have some pretty high production values in terms of like their website and stuff. But then reading about them, it sounds like they have quite a reputation, with developers having experience from some of the biggest studios in Poland, like Techland and CD Projekt Red, and the company seemingly having a history in making serious games with some interesting sounding people in the C-suite. Anyway, that's all kind of meta stuff. I had fun with the demo, though it didn't run perfectly for me. I did encounter some performance issues. But hey, it's an early build, so I won't judge it too hard. As I said, there is a full demo coming out soon, if this looks of interest to you, and you can give it a try. If you're one of those hardcore gamers who likes things like Warno and such, I would love to hear your thoughts down below and how you think Systemic War stacks up against the competition. And if you also think it's about time that I try one of these games for real, then let me hear it in the comments and tell me which one. I've recently reviewed the early access release of the Scouring, so I'm going to just say that if you want to know more about it, you can watch either of these two videos to do so. Essentially, it's a Warcraft 2-ish inspired RTS that's available in early access right now. And while I think it's a little bare bones considering the asking price, it's got a lot of potential, and its roadmap throughout early access is looking very nice indeed. The aforementioned Broken Arrow launched a few months ago after a lengthy marketing period, and while it landed okay initially, public sentiment has kind of fallen a bit, seemingly because of severe cheating problems in multiplayer, alongside performance issues and an average single-player experience. In saying that, there are a lot of positive reviews too though, and it seems like a lot of the negative reviews are qualifying their statements by saying that there's absolutely good potential here if things can be fixed up. I was meaning to review this on launch, but as you guys know, life happens and I just didn't get the time for it. I might circle back on it sometime, but if you've played it already, do let me know what you think in the comments. Godsworn is a game that I'm a big fan of, having made a couple of videos on it now, one upon its release into early access and another just a few months ago. I don't have much more to say on it right now, so go watch those two videos if you're interested, but long story short, it's showing great promise, and even as it stands right now, it is absolutely worth the asking price if you're looking for a classic Warcraft inspired RTS. Era 1 is a really cool looking space strategy game made by the developers of the Complex mod for Homeworld 2. It released into early access a couple of months back, and is planned to be there until around mid-2026. I'll do my best to play this one once it launches next year, but so far community sentiment has been pretty positive, speaking to the game's potential and unique mechanics and ideas. Let me know if you've tried it below, I'd love to hear what you think. Red Chaos is a CNC inspired RTS that just launched into early access a couple of weeks ago. It's clearly inspired by early 3D Command & Conquer games, which I'm sure is an easy sell for a lot of you watching. Not many reviews for this one just yet, but do give it a try if it looks interesting to you, especially if you're looking for something to play multiplayer. It's aiming to be in early access for about a year. Falling Frontier is a game that many of us have had our eyes on for quite a while now, and if you were hoping for a significant update about it in this video, unfortunately I cannot deliver. Still no word on a release date other than 2025, which itself was a delay from sometime in 2023, and before that, late 2022. Developing a game as an extremely small team is obviously difficult, so I hope things are going okay behind the scenes here. Considering we are closing in on the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised to see this get another delay into 2026. While things do look, well, bad from the outside, considering the last update on Steam was nearly 2 years ago, considering this game is being published by Hooded Horse, and that the developer is still posting updates on their Twitter account basically weekly, I don't think things are as dire as you might imagine. But hey, time will tell. DORF is another old school Command & Conquer inspired RTS that's been floating around for a few years now. Like Falling Frontier, there is no word on a release date as of right now, but updates are flowing steadily on the game's YouTube channel and social pages. And the game itself is looking pretty built out at this stage, so hopefully a release window is not too far away. The unique presentation award for this video will undoubtedly go to Duskfront, another game similar to the previous couple that we've all been watching for a while now with no set release date. Thankfully though, like DORF, updates are still flowing quite regularly, so there's no doubt that the project is still being worked on, but for now, we'll just have to sit tight. Sanctuary Shattered Sun is a spiritual successor to Supreme Commander that's had a lot of people, me included, eagerly awaiting news on its release. Or at least a proper playable demo. We did have that pre-alpha survival scenario about a year ago, but it was very bare bones and basically a tech demo. The promise of an actual Kickstarter campaign to signal the game's imminent launch into early access has been talked about for a while, but nothing has materialized just yet. I feel like I've been saying it could be any time now, literally forever, but I do genuinely think it could be any time now. I know they don't want to drop it until the build is all good and ready, so I don't doubt that the wait will be worth it. But man, that wait has been long indeed. Dinolords is looking like a super fun cross between classics like Stronghold and Age of Empires, mixed up with a healthy serving of Jurassic Park and a bit of Dungeon Siege to boot. So it's getting close to my perfect game. It'll be launching into early access soon, I'm hoping for this year, but I've got no inside information to back that up. This is definitely one that I will not be missing, so subscribe if you want to hear my thoughts on it once it's available. Age of Respair is a really cool looking Stronghold-ish RTS that's slated to release in 2025, likely via Steam Early Access. Visually it's looking pretty darn great, and as a huge Stronghold fan I'd love to see some competition in that space. Though it's still unclear how exactly the game will play. I'm basically extrapolating my thoughts on the game purely from its Steam description and trailers. Still, it looks great and I can't wait to get my hands on it this year. This year, right? It says on the page, it's got to be this year. Lastly, Repterra is another dinosaur RTS that appeared in my inbox a few weeks back that I couldn't not mention. It actually has a free demo that you can go try right now if you're interested, and aside from that there is no set release date. I'm hoping to take it for a spin sometime soon, and if you give it a try, let me know below what you think. I would love to hear about it. Oh hey, Editor Zaid here, chucking in one extra game, Dying Breed. Somehow I missed this one, and it came into my email, then started popping up everywhere, so I'm very sorry. Looks very cool, and you can play it right now. Thanks! This third section here is for anything in the middle of indies and big players. It's kind of a vague category, so just don't think about the categorizations too hard, okay? But let's start with Dawn of War 4. This is another one I've made a full dedicated video on, and there haven't been many updates since then. The footnotes are that there is a new, fully fledged Dawn of War game being created by King Art Games, the developers of Iron Harvest. It's releasing sometime in 2026, and it features base building, old school RTS mechanics, and game-wide sync, kill, and battle animations for all melee units. I had some hands-on time with the game and I came away pretty impressed, so go watch that video if you want all the details. Tempest Rising released earlier this year after a few delays, and mostly met everyone's expectations of a modern-day Command & Conquer sans the branding. While we're still waiting for the big expansion that will introduce the third playable faction and expand the campaign, the game has been far from dormant since launch. Following up on smaller patches and bug fixes, we recently got what I think is the game's most significant update so far in Triple Threat, adding things like 6-player matches of any team composition, a full spectator mode, more maps, the option to change the game speed and pause it entirely in single player, among other minor additions and fixes. I reckon the addition of 6-player matches is the most important change, as previously 4 was the highest you could go. Now with larger maps to go alongside it, and a max population of 500 up from 200, skirmish and multiplayer games can be much more intense. Going from a theoretical max unit count of 800 across 4 players to 3000 across 6 is awesome. I think the game is much more attractive now for skirmishing with your mates, as there's also a much wider map selection than on launch. And when the third playable faction does come, hopefully sometime soon, it'll be even better and may even probably rival classics like CNC3 for variety and team comps. I'll be reviewing that I'll be reviewing that DLC as soon as it goes live, so subscribe if you want to hear about it. I'm pretty excited personally, and I can't wait to see how the Veti play compared to the existing 2 factions, and where the story goes. Game of Thrones War for Westeros was announced earlier this year and piqued my interest quite a bit. The promise of an authentic, proper RTS based in the Game of Thrones universe is exciting, especially considering that most games based in the world of Ice and Fire are abysmal dogshit, either on your phone or in a web browser. We don't know a whole lot about this one just yet, only that it's releasing next year, barring any delays of course. Hopefully we'll get some proper news soon. Stormgate, oh boy, this is not in a good place right now. Frankly, I'm expecting a Twitter JPEG announcing its cancellation any day now. While it made a splash upon its announcement, it struggled to maintain a consistent or solid player base throughout its early access period, and has never achieved any sort of majority recommendation by its players either. Whether it were issues with the monetization, content offering, or release schedule, it's always seemed that there was something causing a stir in the community. Frostgiant, the game's developers, made a last-ditch attempt to give the game a shot in the arm that it desperately needed a couple of months back by releasing it out of early access with the first portion of its single-player campaign, but it wasn't enough. Despite some positive press, including a review by me where I praised it, the player base was just too far gone to recover, it seems. It couldn't even crack 1,000 concurrents on what was supposed to be its biggest release since launch. Though even that seems like a good number now, with its daily counts today not even getting to 1/10 of that. Unfortunately, I think it might be game over for Stormgate. Since Vassal Empire 2 launched just over a year ago and has maintained a small but healthy player base since then, I praised it on launch as being a fantastic sequel to both the original and Rebellion, and player sentiment has followed that trend too. At the end of the last month, Sins 2 had its second small-scale DLC in Reinforcements, which is much more exciting to me than its first one, Paths of Power, which is basically just a scenario pack with unique missions and objectives. While that one didn't sit too well with players, Reinforcements seems to be, mostly. Some may think it's a bit expensive for what it is. I think it's okay considering the impact that the 6 new units will have on the average Sins game, plus the brand new factional victory conditions invite an almost entirely new way to play and end games. What's most exciting for Sins 2, however, are its 2 future expansions. And these are the big ones. One is a full single player campaign, something no Sins game has ever had before, and the other is the mysterious 4th faction, something that's been hinted at literally since the beginning of the series as the original antagonists of the Visari. And if they can cause these guys to run from their homeworlds in fear, I can't wait to see what we might be in for. No release date on either of those expansions yet, but I'm guessing both will hit sometime in 2026. I will be absolutely reviewing them on release, so keep an eye out. Stronghold has been doing great for the past while, with Crusader Definitive Edition releasing just a few months ago to rave reviews. I even made a documentary about it, link in the description if you're interested. They obviously had the original Definitive Edition a couple of years back that landed pretty well, and Crusader was the obvious next step. Despite releasing over 3 months ago, it's still hitting a concurrent player count of over 5,000, which is nearly 4 times what the original Definitive Edition was pulling after the same amount of time. Even compared to other contemporary RTS games, Crusader Definitive Edition is doing very, very well. Firefly have 2 free and paid DLCs planned for the coming months, with the first not far around the corner. Coming with new lords, missions, and modes, I'm very excited to see what these expansions bring to the game, and like Sins 2, I will be reviewing them upon launch. Now I know Anno isn't really RTS, but I wanted to mention it regardless. Anno 1800 was the first game I ever got a review code for on this channel, so it kind of holds a special place in my heart. Plus I played a ton of Anno 2070 back in the day, so I like to revisit the series every so often and see how it's going. Anno 117 Pax Romana is the next game in the series, and it's releasing in November of this year. I've actually got a couple of videos planned for 117 in collaboration with Ubisoft, so keep an eye out if you're interested in seeing those. If not, don't worry, there is traditional RTS content coming as well. Anyway, Pax Romana takes the series back to a time earlier than any other in the series, by a lot actually, and it will be the 8th game in the franchise. As a side note, I'm eagerly awaiting the 9th game in the franchise, because if you didn't know by now, every Anno game's title always adds up to 9, so surely for the 9th game we'll get something like super meta, right? Anno 9, Anno 234, Anno 900, and it'd be pretty funny, like for the 9th game, they just did like a title that had nothing to do with 9 for the first time. Fuck it man, just reboot the entire series and just call it Anno. That'd be funny. Alright, I'm rambling now. Anno 117 has a demo available now, and it releases in just over a month's time. Alright, and that is that. I think this video has gone on for long enough at this point, and I gotta get back to playing some important games here. All I hope is that this video has been helpful to you, no matter who you are, whether you're an RTS regular, a casual enjoyer, or just a passerby here on YouTube. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're excited for in the comments, whether it was a game I mentioned or maybe one that I forgot. Let me know down below, I'd love to hear it. And if you'd like to support me and what I do here, you can do so on Patreon or YouTube memberships for as little as $1 a month. And if you do, you'll get the opportunity to ask me questions every so often, such as... Johnny asks, would you say that Australia is this world's Arrakis and instead of spice melange, they've got Vegemite? Well yeah, it definitely is, because it's just a desert hellhole. Saying that Vegemite is spice melange is implying Vegemite has value, and we all know the proper yeast-based vegetable spread is Marmite or Bovril, so there you go. Srandista asks, where the hell is Command & Conquer Remastered Collection Volume 2? I don't know. I really don't know. Overlord Jeevis asks why he can't stop playing Supreme Commander. Please send help. I don't think I will. You should be playing Supreme Commander, it's great. He also asks, what do you think about limited camera zoom as a gameplay limiter / balancing mechanic? I sometimes feel being able to zoom out fully would improve just about any game, but then I wonder if it would make some games much easier. Just like how the selection limit on StarCraft 1 factored into the skill of it. Yeah, personally I like to be able to zoom out a lot, but I also get why some games will limit it. I think there's a pretty good medium of letting people zoom out a decent amount, but just not having it too close in. I think the biggest issue often is like performance, because obviously the further out you zoom, the more stuff it's got to render. So I do think that runs into issues on some games. But yeah, personally, I like to be able to zoom out quite a bit, but probably not as far as some of you. Imperial Owl asks, what source of resource systems are your favorite? Mono resource like CNC, two resources like Spring Commander and Dawn of War, or multi-resource like Age of Empires? That is a great question. I think I like somewhere in between two and multi-resource. Like, I do quite like the simplicity of a dual resource system like Spring Commander, having like energy and metal, but also multi-resources like Age of Empires, and then going even further to something like Stronghold, which has like 1,000,000 resources, I also quite like to manage. But then I don't want to go crazy with it like a factory game. So yeah, I don't know, probably like if I had to choose one overall, probably a dual resource system, I would say. Gen Hunter asks, have you tried or played Off-World Trading Company? Speaking of resources, no, I haven't, but it always did look kind of cool. So maybe I'll give it a try at some point. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. Shout out to my Cavaliers, Dakayo, Sean, Grey Spirit 4, George, Pavel, Bram, Christian, Dan, Orion, Das Rufkin, and Candy Bunny Bun, and the absolute goats, the Paladins, Johnny, Marika, Tank, Empyrean, and Sparrow451. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers. Say bye, Andy. Bye. Nice job, Andy. Go back to EA. Get back there. Come on. You got a franchise to ruin. Let's go.